Welcome back. The timestamps are in the description box as always, so let's get started. Opie writes, I'm 31 female, dating a man-child, 33 male. We've been together 7 years. His family was upper middle class. His dad was emotionally abusive. His mom was a habitual cheater. Dad first, she was out for revenge. His older brother was a huge ass and his dad's golden child. His younger brother was his mom's favorite. He has major middle child syndrome. His family was Jehovah's Witnesses until they were kicked out of their local church for his mom's misconduct, and they decided to leave the religion altogether. At that time, they sat their kids down and told them they weren't going to church anymore. He said it was a freeing but very confusing time. He had major anxiety at school and was bullied at times. He peed his pants on his first day of kindergarten because he was too scared to ask to go to the bathroom. He only had 2 friends of his own in his whole life. The rest were hand-me-downs from his brothers. He started doing drugs and drinking when he was 14, 15 and continued pretty heavily until he was around 24, 25. His dad had him drop out his senior year of high school because he would skip a lot and his dad didn't want to deal with delinquency fees. He had his first job when he was like 20, 21. He worked a crummy little restaurant and his boss was really demeaning. He has had little luck with any job since. He is always on high alert and reads into any and everything that could be a threat. Things that any normal person could brush off or let go, he obsesses over. The anxiety usually leads to him quitting within days. At this point, he has been out of work for 2 to 3 years and is too embarrassed about it to apply for jobs at all. So here is where I am. I am his therapist, his provider, his cook. I'm the household fix-it person and I run all our errands because he's too anxious around people. He does do all dishes and takes care of the needs of our 2 cats and keeps the house straightened. We both do the big cleaning and laundry on the weekends. I thank him profusely when he does these things and I'm always telling him I appreciate it. To say the least, I'm very burnt out. I see no hope for the future. I used to want kids, but I don't think we will ever be able to afford or handle it. So I have just let that desire die out. In my mind, owning a home or retiring are in the same category as winning the lottery. I really just want him to go to therapy, but he's full of excuses. He has always said we can't afford it. Well, he's had insurance now for a few months, without any noticeable movement towards setting up an appointment. I've told him about apps where you can text with therapists and gave him all the help I could, without doing everything for him. The worst thing is that when I bring these issues up, he gets really defensive and acts like I'm attacking him. I genuinely want him to be a happy, healthy, and productive member of society, but to him, I'm just judging him and putting him down. I will admit, I've gotten so much pushback on these issues, I don't really bring them up until I can't hold the frustration in any longer, and I probably don't enter the conversations with the best attitude, but I try my best to be kind and understanding. I'm also open to working on the relationship, but I can't fully support him anymore, and I don't want to be that, quote, I'll fix him, unquote, person anymore. It's honestly not fair to him, and it makes me feel like a crap person. So, what do you all think? Well, Opie, I think there's a whole lot going on here, and I'm not even going to guess what the diagnosis is. But one thing I do feel is that your boyfriend is manipulating you. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't have issues, he definitely does, but he's playing on your feelings. And you having to praise him and profusely praise him when he does the dishes, when he does the absolute minimum. No wonder you're burnt out. So let's get a couple of comments and then we're going to go to an update from Opie. The only positive thing about your boyfriend I could find in that post is that he does the dishes. So my advice is to get a dishwasher instead. And another commenter says, you're an enabler and you need to put your foot down and kick him out. You could be helping an actual teenager who needs a parent through foster care, but instead you're helping a grown-ass man who doesn't want to grow up and blames his past for everything. Okay, so that was 6 months ago, and then a month later, OP posted again. We, 31 female, 33 male, been together for 7 years. You can get a more in-depth view of my relationship in my post history, but the gist is this. I'm dating a guy that spent most of his time playing video games and hasn't had a job in over 5 years. He has no friends and doesn't leave the house. He treats me like his mother and I am completely burnt out. He has always complained that his parents didn't give him structure and pretty much let him raise himself, and it's very evident in his current behavior. I've realized lately that I act the same exact way. I make excuses and sugarcoat issues. I am 100% enabling him and can't go on like this. So my plan is to start treating him as if he were actually my child. I want to give him more structure and guidelines, schedules, rules, and restrictions. Like, quote, you have to apply to jobs. You can't play video games until your chores are done. You have to get out of the house every week. You need to go to therapy, and etc., unquote. What do you all think of this idea? Is it ridiculous? Is it my place? Any suggestions or comments? Okay, OP, well, suggestions, comments. I think he's a bit old for you to be raising him as if he's a child. I see you trying very hard, much too hard actually. I don't see it working. Let's get some comments and then we go to another update from OP. He's 33. He's not a child. You're allowed to break up with him. Someone else says, this is called, quote, codependent, unquote. Google it. Lose the 180 pounds of dead weight and get yourself into therapy to figure out why you put up with this for 5 years. And someone else comments, seriously? I need me a sugar daddy who will let me be jobless for 5 years. I'd at least cook and clean and garden and take care of the dogs and house. Yikes. Well, that was 5 months ago, and here we have OP's update. I effing did it. It took me a few months and all the power I had in me, but I did it. I had to hurt his feelings. I had to be honest. I had to put my foot down and stand by my guns. I had to risk my own safety and security. I had to sleep on a couch for a couple of weeks. He pulled out all the stops, used every tactic in his playbook, but he didn't effing win. And at the end of it all, I have my peace, joy, freedom, independence, and most of all, my identity back. I never thought I would get here. I never imagined a life free from him. He's gone and blocked and doesn't have any power over me anymore. And guess effing what? He's just fine. Regarding the original post, I just want to thank everyone who took the time to reach out to me. I utilized all your all's tough advice and kind words. I read and reread everything like a Bible. I don't know if I would have had the balls to go through with the breakup if it weren't for the hundreds of people who stood behind me on this. Thank you with all my heart, Reddit. And to all those in the position I was in, break up with them. I know it seems impossible, but it's not. This freedom is indescribable and worth all the trouble of a simple little breakup. Stop making a mountain out of a molehill. Well, good for you, OP. You sound like you have a whole weight lifted, and I can just feel that burnt out feeling that you said you had before. It seems gone. You seem rejuvenated and excited. So that's wonderful. Let's get some comments and then we're going to get some more info about the breakup from OP. If yes, you are awesome. Not just for posting or breaking up, etc., but you're on fire. You know your worth, who you are, and you took the time to share your emotional struggle to help others. That's how you change the world, by changing yourself and being you for you. I'm so happy for you. I'm literally teary. All my best for continued success and all the best. And somebody else asked the question that we all have. Okay, but I really need all the details of how this played out. Opie replies, oh boy, you might have to wait for the novel. Well, fortunately this week Opie decided to give us that novel and to tell us what exactly went down. Here's a little more details to my story. Thanks again for all your support. So, we had been fighting non-stop for a week, talking about breaking up and our future and everything in between. Things were getting really overwhelming and I had to leave the house. I went to my sister's house to vent. I explained the situation to her for the millionth time. She listened patiently and encouraged me to leave him. She said, I'll just go to your house and get your stuff. I sat there thinking that this could be the moment I've been waiting for, or it could be the moment I chicken out. I said, okay, let's do that. I wrote him a goodbye letter and gave her a list of things I needed. As she was about to leave, I decided I should go along with her. I didn't want to miss out on the experience, and it felt too easy. So we went back to my house and got my stuff. He was freaking out a little, but I was firm in my decision. I went to my sister's and told him he needed to decide what he wanted to do, and he could stay at my house for a little bit, but I wanted it back eventually. The next time I see him, he already has a place to stay and the means to get there. He had completely healed all his broken family bonds. All my worries were for naught. But alas, there's about a week and a half of him dragging his feet. A lot of harassment and self-harm threats. I made the mistake of spending a night in separate beds, and he kept me up all night. I completely grey-rocked him and left as soon as I could in the morning. One day, I got a text from him that he's in the ER. I drove down there just to find out he was getting a stomachache checked out. He neglected to tell me this until he got the satisfaction of me jumping to support him yet again. I left immediately. The next day, he told me that he scheduled an endoscopy for the first week of November. I tell him he can stay for that, but that it doesn't mean anything. Eventually, he decides he doesn't have a chance and calls me to come over to say goodbye. He's all packed and ready to go. We sit and talk a bit and then I tell him I should get going. We hug and he suggests breakup sex. I pause and hesitantly say, quote, maybe a breakup BJ, unquote. He's like, quote, you don't have to if you don't want to, unquote. And I say, quote, yeah, I don't really think it's a good idea, unquote. And that was that. I didn't do it. That was my proudest moment, really. The next day, I drove past my house on the way to work. His truck was gone, and there were sunbeams shining all around where it used to be. I turned on the radio and, quote, I can see clearly now, unquote, was on. He made it to his destination, a family member's house, and is getting settled in. I blocked him. The end. Wow, Opie, good for you. It just sounds like you really are happy, that you're content with your decision and ready for your future. The future that you kind of were giving up there when you were still with him. So I wish you the best of luck, Opie. I really do. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it the thumbs up and subscribing. Leave a comment and I'll see you again next time. Take care of yourself.